Oh, that hurt. Okay, here's the welcome to the meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners and the joint meeting with the Recreation Board for today's date, April 5th. Please call the roll.
Mr. Cappers?
Here.
Mr. Fox?
Here.
Mrs. Pierce? Here. Mr. Hobart? Mr. Dunn? Mrs. Snipes? Mr. Jackson? Mr. Herman?
Here. Okay, we have the minutes from our October 6th joint meeting and our March 1st regular meeting. Now, Mr. Herman, I think that the Recreation Board probably approves your portion of the October meeting well in advance, and we have also done that, so we won't approve those minutes today. But the Park Board has its minutes of the March 1st regular Park Board meeting before us. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to those minutes? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? They are adopted. Reports. Mr. Drake, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Do you have anything to add to your report, sir?
Just a couple things. First of all, this is a part of my report, but I want to welcome my wife, who I don't think has ever been to a park board meeting before live. So she's actually here, maybe because today's my birthday, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
We'll just let that lie for now. A couple
Well,
things.
I want to interrupt.
Oh,
When he says he goes to park board meetings, I can vouch that he generally does most of the time. Okay? All right.
a couple things. One, I want to thank Ken Green. I wasn't here last month. I had in my report that we did get help from the golf course for our tree removal season this last winter. Ken had Mike Maniaci helping us on our crew. We were in really a bind. We had one guy off with surgery, and Mike was a huge help on that. So thank you, Ken. And I do know we've still got, I believe, 6 trees on the course that we weren't able to get to. The weather it never got frozen and firm enough to get out there. So, but those are on our list, and when we can, we will be there to get those. So thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
One other thing I want to just mention is we've noticed a marked increase in turf damage in our parks from vehicles. It started in 2014, seemed to be the first really big incident on our soccer fields. We had damage. The suspects were caught. We sought restitution and received that. But since then, it's been happening more and more. Most recently, we've had damage again at Duke Park and then at Boyer Park too. So I just want to throw out to our citizens, if they see any activity in a park with a vehicle on turf, please call 911 right away. We've sought restitution in the case most recently again at Duke Park, and we are again at Boyer Park. So it's not anything, a small matter. These are expensive incidences to get repaired. And so I just want to mention that if any activity is seen at all, please report that, and we will go for restitution to get these areas repaired. So.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Is this a cars or trucks driving on it?
Cars.
It's not an ATV that they might be using for a soccer game or anything
Yeah,
like
no.
that?
Most recently they've been cars where people pull off into the grass or park in the grass or just intentionally. They've all been intentional, but the most recent one was they were leaving the park as they were parked in the grass and then decided to do some donuts before they took off. The one in 2014 was on our soccer fields, just intentionally pulled in and trashed about 3 fields, I think it was then. So they're costly repairs. The one at Duke was, I think, $6,000 or right around there, and this most recent one was close to $3,000. So we definitely are going after them. We're seeking restitution when we catch them, and we want people to report that. So that's all.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Drake? Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Mr. Simon, do you have anything to add to your report?
Well, while we're thanking people today, I want to take the opportunity to thank Jeremy. He has been a huge help to our staff as we've started the renovation project at the arena. We've been struggling for space with all of the equipment and so forth that we have in the building that we've had to find some temporary storage space for, and he's allowed us to use a good portion of their main garage over there at the Park Department building. So we certainly appreciate your help with that as we get through this kind of challenging time of working around the events that we need to work around and what equipment we still need to have close to the building during those events. So we appreciate that help from them. outside of that, that's all I have today.
Okay, we're in graduation season at the Arena, I see.
Yes, we'll have 4 graduations at the end of May, and prior to that time, we have one more concert on the schedule towards the end of April. It's a Christian concert. We typically do very well with those shows. This is a little bit smaller scale Christian act. It's an up-and-coming act, and they will likely do around 1,000 to maybe 1,500 people for this. It was intended to be a half-house show from the start. And then the following week after that show, we'll have the Troy Chamber of Commerce Business Expo that happens every other year. And then following that will be our graduation ceremonies.
The concert you're talking about is the Rend Collective.
Correct.
Any questions of Mr. Seiler? Thank you. Mr. Green, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Do you have anything to add to your report?
Yes, just a couple of updates, if I could, some of the things that we're doing out there at the golf course. We just received our new tee markers for our family tees that we're going to be putting in starting today. There's a level 1, level 2. These will be from approximately 3,000 to 4,000 yards now, instead of the 5,000 yards that we have the senior tees and the ladies tees set up at. So this will open it up for new people to begin the game, make it much easier, much more fun for them. Also for the average golfer that just wants to go out and maybe practice on his short game. He can hit irons and stuff from these tees so that he can, do a lot more work with wedges and stuff like that. We hope to have these in by the end of the week, and as soon as we get in there, we will publicize this, because I think we're the only ones in Miami County for sure that have what they call family tees. And this is a nationwide initiative that's been going on for several years, and we're glad to be able to get that finally done. And with the help of the Reed Foundation that we have money in, they purchased these tees for us, and it's I think going to be a step forward for getting new people involved and kids, and just making it more fun for anyone who wants to try to learn the game. So that is something that we'll be hopefully finishing up by the end of this week. Another thing is, as you know, we finished all of our bunkers last year with the new sand, and one of the complaints was, well, we don't have any place to practice out of them. So we are in the process of building a new practice bunker on the driving area that you come in to the left there at our entrance, and we'll begin on that tomorrow, and hopefully have that done within a few days if the weather cooperates. And now they will have a place where they can actually go out and practice their bunker shots without doing it on the golf course. So we're looking forward to getting that in. Plus, a great place for us for me to be able to teach too, the bunker shots, which everybody's always trying to learn how to do. And the third thing that I'd like to bring to your attention, I don't know if I've mentioned it before, Mr. Doug Page, who is on our golf board, had asked the golf course itself to see if there was anything we could do as far as conservation, helping our ecosystem and stuff. And the National Audubon Society enables businesses to be certified by doing either helping with wildlife or helping with in the environment in other ways to become certified. And on April 21st of this year, we're going to have a teleconference to see what more we have to do to become certified. But one of the things we're going to reach out and start doing is try to increase the amount of bees that are in our area, because bees help to pollinate plants and stuff. So we're planting a lot more wildflowers to help that out. We're also going to be planting some milkweed, which encourages monarchs to be around, which we have some already, but we don't have them out on the golf course. So we're going to spread those seeds, and probably won't start that till the spring or the fall, because the seeds will be ready by then and we can start planting those. So we hope to become certified, and they have different levels of certification, and we're just starting off small because we don't have a lot of extra time with our personnel to be able to do a lot of things. But this is one thing we thought we could do to help out the community and society as a whole, to maybe see that we are trying to do something to help the environment.
Where will the milkweeds be planted?
In the natural growth areas out there,
Oh, okay.
so that'll encourage butterflies to be around.
We've got that whole area back over the levee where there used to be some short par 3.
Right. And a lot of that's where we're going to get some of those milkweed,
Gotcha.
and we'll use those seeds.
Gotcha.
So I just wanted to update you on those few things that we're doing extra, and like I said, as soon as the family teas are in, we will publicize that, we'll put it on our website, and hopefully encourage a lot of people to come out, and it'll certainly help our family night, because now we won't have to go out and put temporary teas out on Sunday, we'll have them already out there. So looking forward to that.
Great.
That's all.
Any questions of Mr. Green? We always have to agree as to what the fees are going to be for the following year.
Right.
Way back in October, November. Have you gotten any feedback as to whether or not the other, are we still competitive?
Yeah, no one else that I know of raised in this area. I know Echo and Chicken was thinking about it for next year. I just talked to Jeff. They didn't raise it at Homestead. And the other one was Cliffside, and they didn't raise theirs either, which is all in Miami County.
Okay.
So we're very competitive with them. We may be a little bit less on some days at certain times, but we're all very close.
Good.
Within a couple of hours.
Okay. I don't have any planning commission report. New business. We've got a request to go ahead and reserve Crowdy Plaza for the Cincinnati Symphony and the Air Force Band of Flight for those 2 dates we have on the agenda. Thursday, June 30th for the Cincinnati Symphony, and Wednesday, August 10th for the Air Force Band of Flight. Any problems with that, Jeremy?
No.
Okay. Anybody have any problems with that? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve those dates.
I so move.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, if you'll let those people know that those dates are approved. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is a recommendation to council from the park board as to what we want to do with the property behind the Lincoln Center. There is, and we have been debating this personally for some time concerning the property that is sitting right behind the Lincoln Center. If you'll recall, and I have some maps here that show the Lincoln Center is actually on property that is, we believe, titled in the name of the Board of Education, and the park property behind that, which is over on the left northwest quadrant of that map, and you see right here, is actually owned by the city of Troy as a park property. The access to that property is either around the back to the building of the Troy Board of Education's Lincoln Center or through the Cedar Street. If you want to go up over a mound of hill dirt to get to that. Borders on the railroad, and we've never really done anything with that property, have we, Jeremy?
No.
Do we mow it?
We mow it, it's just passive green space.
Yeah, some green space, and that's about it. So the thought is, do we really want to continue to own that real estate, or do we want to go ahead and declare it as excess property and put it out there? So what do you guys think?
So excess property, what happens at that point?
Well, let me see the notes here. If we could do it one of two ways. We can go ahead and say we're going to go ahead and declare it as excess property and try to get it sold and put money back into our coffers, or we can go ahead and recommend that we transfer this to the Board of Education so that they can lease the title of their property, and then they can go ahead and do with it as they wish. If it goes to the Board of Education, if our recommendation to City Council is that it goes to the Board of Education, then at that point in time, we wouldn't have to go ahead and put it out for bid. They would then go ahead and replat the entire lot into one lot. What are your thoughts? Do you see any usage of this property as a park, Jeremy?
I really don't. It's set there dorm. I've been here 18 years, and it's not changed. It gets very little use from what I see. I actually think that Shane Carter's used it more, Lincoln Center's used it more than we've utilized it as a park space. To me, it makes good sense to let them, to turn that back over and let them use it for expansion and so forth. We do already have Shane's got the center has a community garden on the property, part of our property, that we had given permission for them to do, and so they're already utilizing a portion of it. Like I said, it just makes good sense to let them go ahead and use it from my standpoint.
And I don't know of anybody that would be interested in building a personal residence back on that property. We've been approached by Habitat for Humanity about purchasing that sometime in the past, but nothing recently.
It is a bit landlocked. It's got the railroad on the one side. Like you mentioned, there's just a couple access points. There's an alleyway that dead ends into the property, but it is landlocked.
Cedar Street, can you get to that from Cedar Street?
There's
Yeah,
a mound
that'd
of
be
dirt
the-
at the end of Cedar Street right now, which would have to be leveled and this cleared out if you were to go ahead and gain access to that property from Cedar Street.
Correct.
Who takes care of the landscaping in the garden, or not the garden, but the just mowing and everything at the Lincoln Center right now? Is that something that they do on their own?
They do the front of the center themselves, and then we do everything sides and to the rear of the property.
You know, there's very little here. This is all paved basketball court,
Yeah.
playground, and the big part, which we maintain, is right here.
So if we'd propose to turn it over to Board of Education, Lincoln Center, then would the Parks Board still continue to mow all
No.
this, or
That wouldn't be ours anymore.
so do they have the means? Do they just have a push mower that they're mowing the front with,
The
and at that
center
point,
themselves right now, they mow the front with a push mower.
yeah, I'd just be concerned if we turned it over and it grew to 2-3 feet high. If they don't have the means, I don't think you could push mow that if it wasn't being taken care of by the Parks Board.
That would begin to be their problem, not ours. So there's some alternatives. We can go ahead and keep on doing what we're doing right now, okay? In which case, if there was a thought about any improvements at the Lincoln Center to encroach upon that property, they wouldn't be able to do so because it wouldn't be theirs. Number two, we could say, okay, well, let's try to sell it to somebody who might be interested. Or number three, we can go ahead and let it go back to the Board of Education, recommend that it goes back to the Board of Education. And the Board of Education can go ahead and replat that lot, and then the Lincoln Center can expand upon that property if they wanted to. Becky, any thoughts?
I'm leaning towards giving it back to the Board of Education and letting Lincoln Center utilize it. I know they have that one fitness program back there, and they put a tent up, you know, that,
They're doing CrossFit.
yeah, CrossFit. So they might want to, I think they would utilize it if it was there.
Certainly utilize it more if it was theirs rather
Right.
than ours.
Right.
Okay, just get the thing on the table for further discussion. I'll make a motion that we go ahead and recommend to City Council that this property be declared as a surplus and that it be deeded back to the Board of Education for their further use.
A second.
Any further discussion or questions or concerns?
Should we see if the Board of Education wants that? Do we just assume that they do? Can Mr. Herman speak for the Board of Education? or-
Yeah, I don't think there's a problem with the Board of Education because with working with Lincoln Center and letting the Lincoln Center have that to expand. But we're aware of the plans, and I'm kind of on the Board of Education, Lincoln Board, so I'm kind of in the middle of all this.
I understand.
So do they have any plans to do anything back there?
I think they have some plans to do some expansion, but it's all financial and trying to get all of it. But as much programming they do, it seems like a natural thing for them to expand that way and have the green space to go that way. Which they don't in the front right now.
Yeah, correct.
They've bought the property to the other side of Lincoln, I believe.
Yeah,
Are they on that property as well?
I think so.
So it seems like a natural for them to expand that way.
Okay, yeah, if, I feel better knowing if they have plans to do something with the land versus potentially it just growing.
Sure, they would like to go ahead and expand, but as Mr. Herman said, there's a lot of financial things that have to be worked out first. Okay, let's call a question. This is an issue for the Park Board to determine the recommendation of council. Let's go ahead and call the roll, please.
Mr. Cappers?
Yes.
Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Mrs. Pierce?
Yes.
Mr. Herman?
I
Oh, this is,
Or just-
yeah, this is a Board of Park
That's fine.
Commissioners issue. Okay. All right, it's adopted. So if you will, Mrs. Knight, if you'd let the Lincoln Center know that, and put this on a committee meeting for council? Yes. All All right, thank you. Okay. Review the farm lease for the area of land known as the Yules Camp Farm. Who wants to direct this discussion? Mr. Titterington, is this something that you're going to bring to the board, or?
Sure. You have a property, actually, birthday boy, I mean, Mr. Drake can talk about this as well. This is property that the purchase of the Hules Camp property. It is farmed property. It is not something that's going to be developed this season, and we've never entered into any kind of contracts for farming land. In the past, we may have had some informal agreements, but certainly nothing that was formal bidding. And so what we need from the park board, if you're so inclined, is a recommendation to the council so that we can go ahead and get this out to bid for a farming contract.
Okay, the agenda just says review farm lease for area. I don't see a farm lease. Are we supposed to be having a copy of something? This is my
In your mind, I suppose.
I'm sorry?
In your mind, I
In my
guess. You're
mind?
supposed to visualize.
So what we're recommending is that perhaps we put the Yules Camp property out for lease.
That's correct.
Under an agreement that is.
For at least
by
this year, yes.
Our director of law.
Right. And we would recommend that we do that for this year with perhaps mutual extensions once we know what our development plans are for that property.
Okay.
So I guess I can just expand on that just briefly. I was pushing for this to happen this year, just from a maintenance standpoint, as we take over that property. If we let it go, I'm afraid it's going to grow up. We've already got weeds starting in the fields. It just makes sense that we let it continue to be farmed. The farmer then takes care of weed control and all the groundwork that happens there. That way we don't have abutting homeowners and other farm fields that are near that property creating issues with weeds and complaints and so forth. So plus, while we've got the property, it doesn't hurt to put it out, and we can generate some income from it while it sits there. So at least for this year, I thought, we know it's not going to be developed. Let's go ahead and try to move forward with this, and I just think it makes good sense to do that. And we're only talking about the portion that we remain in control of, which is the upper 59 acres, I believe. The lower 41 or so has already been taken over by the Park District.
Okay.
Would that lease money go back into the park board, or no?
No, it would probably just go to the general fund to offset the purchase price. Yeah. And we don't expect it to be substantial anyway. It's really, as Jeremy mentioned, a way to better maintain the property at a very low cost. We could potentially have issues with tax exemption with the amount of revenue that we could receive, and so we've got to manage that as well.
Okay. So the action to be taken today is to approve a lease arrangement that's put together by our law director for bidding purposes for.
You're recommending to the council that they authorize us to bid out that land for leasing,
Okay.
or for farming, excuse me.
Did you get that? Because I just made that motion.
And I second it.
Okay.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is approved. Thank you, Mr. Titterton.
Welcome.
Now, we have Treasure Island use agreements. Do you want to go ahead and continue on?
Yeah, I figured I wouldn't go back and then come back up, so I just stood here. We have two applications from the Board of Recreation for the use of Treasure Island for a couple of events this summer. The reason that we need to come before the park board, there are actually several. As we've been developing, constructing, renovating this property, we've said all along that we wanted to come up with some procedures, some parameters around which these type of events can happen. And these agreements that are, I believe, in your packet, would serve as the model that we could use for any promoter that comes in, anyone who wants to use the property for events and activities. These two are somewhat unique because they do have the involvement of potential involvement of alcohol, in which case the City Council will need to approve exemptions from the alcohol policy or the alcohol laws. You will see that these two agreements are, we should call them trilateral agreements. Is that what they are?
We'll create the word.
We'll use that, all right. And so it would be an agreement between, in this case, the Recreation Board and the City Council and the Board of Park Commissioners. The two events, first one would be June 25th. It would be a concert, Surfs Up, a Beach Boys, thank you, tribute band. And that, again, that's June 25th. They would like to use the property from noon until 11 p.m. There, as you'll see, there are some stipulations and conditions related to the sale and consumption of alcohol, some requirements that they would have to fulfill. This agreement, or these agreements, are modeled after the agreement that was in place for the Gentlemen of the Road Festival, as well as at least certain aspects of it after the Troy Strawberry Festival agreement that we have in place, with the exception of the alcohol component. What we anticipate and what would be the most streamlined is that where there are events that do not involve changes to the ordinance, namely with the alcohol, then the council would not have to take any legislative act, much the same as the park board and their approval of the schedule along Prati Plaza and some of the other venues when you receive requests. The second agreement would be for July 23rd, and that is Pirates of the Caribbean concert, and that is a Jimmy Buffett tribute band. We're into the tribute bands. This one would be a longer period of time. It would actually be the River Rock concert. We anticipate it will be the big event that we'll have this year at the larger of the two events anyway, and will involve a full day's worth of non-adult, family-friendly events in the morning and the afternoon, and then the adult portion where the alcohol would be available would not occur until after 6 p.m. Again, subject to all of the requirements under the state liquor control. The alcohol management would be done by the arena staff, Ken and Carrie and their staff, much like they do at the arena, and so they're well versed in what they can and can't do and well trained in doing it correctly.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Tiddington? Mr. Seiler, do you have any input you want to go ahead and give us about these concerts?
Carrie and I have been working closely with Patrick on, the kind of the plan and the approach, and we have been working to secure these events. We fully intend to have our staff there for the sale of the alcohol. All of our staff from the arena is trained through an alcohol training program that's utilized across the country at entertainment and sporting venues, and so all of the people that would be working from a sales and serving capacity would be from our staff at the arena that's gone through that training process, and we would follow the policies that that were outlined in the agreement.
I see these are titled non-ticketed events. Who's making money on this? Are we getting anything? The city of Troy getting anything?
Just the proceeds from the alcohol to offset the city's event costs.
Okay.
And the reason we call it non-ticketed is because GOTR, the difference there was that was an ticketed venue, so certain other requirements came into play. These are open to the public. There will be some restrictions because of the alcohol and how we fence things off so that it's a controlled area, and that's with regards to the temporary liquor permit. But other than that, we wanted to make it clear these are non-ticketed, meaning a promoter can't come in and charge admission fees. If a promoter were to approach us, then we would have a different agreement that we would bring to you and to the council.
So this is going to be open to everybody?
It is.
Ticket or not. Is there going to be a separate concessionaire, or are your staff going to be concessionaires?
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention. We would anticipate that we will likely have a couple, don't know an exact number, but a couple food truck type concession vendors in addition to what we would be doing in terms of handling the alcohol sales portion. And so that's yet to be worked out with them, but that's what our plan would be related to the concession side.
Mr. Drake, any concerns from our?
I don't really have any concerns. One question I do have, I know we've talked about the temporary fencing. Has it been talked about will that be required along the river, much like GOTR?
We don't anticipate that. That was more of a requirement of the MCD because there was camping involved. We don't anticipate that there will be a need to do that along the river itself, and we feel that it would probably detract from everything else going on. However, this agreement does stipulate that the applicant, in this case the Recreation Board, has to follow whatever the liquor control wants us to do. So if liquor control says, yeah, you really need to have some along the river, then we'll have to do that. But it'll be temporary in nature, of course.
Yeah. Okay. And then I know we've got some fencing, but we don't have a lot. So have we talked about or made arrangements to?
We'll have to
bring
rent
that
some.
in? Okay.
We will have to rent some, probably. And we are in discussions with MCD because some of the fencing we want to have just, I guess, east of the bike path on the top of the levee, which is on MCD property, and so that way people can watch the concert at the amphitheater and be able to sit along the grass area before you get to the bike path. And if they want to consume, they can consume, but of course that has to be fenced in.
Yeah.
So we're in discussions with them to make sure that's okay with MCD.
Okay.
Speaking of the food trucks, if I can just piggyback on that, we are going to be talking with some food truck vendors to identify 2 or 3, whatever the appropriate number is, depending on the estimated size of each festival or each event. We are in in negotiations right now with a restaurateur coming to the Marina building. You'll see that there is a map attached to your agreement. It does include the Marina building. However, the agreement does state that they have to keep the Marina building able to be operated. They can't block the Marina operations. There is a certain amount of parking that is part of the Marina, will be part of the Marina contract and not Treasure Island, but there's also some crossover and some shared space there. With the preferred vendor that we're talking to, they understand and are fully on board. They're excited about, frankly, the events and the schedule that we're looking at. So they will. The only thing that we will avoid is having food trucks next to their buildings serving the same thing that they're serving. And there is some discussion about them even having a trailer throughout the season, really, to be able to sell to trail users, cyclists, walk-ups, that kind of thing. and to perhaps even share that trailer space with a canoe livery rental operation. So,
Gotcha. Okay. Any other questions of staff?
So are we looking to approve these two individual agreements or approve this template going forward as well?
Well, it'd be kind of one and the same. We're approving it as a template, but what is immediately before us today is the approval of these two agreements for these dates.
So the question I have, if we approve it as a template going forward, say a church service would want to come in and rent it out on a Sunday morning, about the police and fire charge, would that be necessary? Would that be part of that agreement where maybe they're just going to bring in their some speakers and just have an hour-long church service and
yeah, the estimated costs on that exhibit that you see are specific to the events that the rec board wants to put on. Those would be different or maybe blank depending on the event applicant. So there will be plenty of times, we expect, that there will be use where there won't be any need for police or fire. But just like any of the events, the runs that we do, the marathons, the 5Ks, that kind of thing, we meet individually with each applicant and talk about what their needs may and may not be.
okay.
So why don't we just go ahead and take a look at these two events and the agreements for these two events at this point. Any other questions?
No.
Will I entertain a motion to approve these two events and the agreements for them?
I so move.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, they're adopted. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. One more comment, and that is that we do have a number of other events that are being finalized, and once we get that list, we will bring them to you. At this point, we have no other alcohol involved, that's the right way to put it, events in the planning. We may have one more, we're not sure.
It's close to being finalized.
Okay, well, so you would see that at a future date as well as the list, and we look for your consideration, much the same as you do with the summer concert series up here at Prouty Plaza. We'll give you a long list of them, and unless they have some extraordinary city services, then they may be called out separately.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, next, Mr. Drake, let's discuss increasing the number of pickleball courts.
Okay. I was approached, it's probably been about a month and a half ago, by Arlene Ellers, just inquiring about whether or not the park board would be interested in at least exploring the idea of adding pickleball courts at Duke Park. And talking more with Roy Baker today, and with Arlene as well, it does make sense to me that we've got a very well-established, and I'll let Mr. Baker speak here in just a minute, very well-established group of pickleball players that they line up and wait to play. And there are two tennis courts immediately to the south of the pickleball courts that sit virtually unused. Ken and I were just talking. It's been probably 3 years or more since I've seen any activity on those two tennis courts. In addition, those courts are in need of a little bit of repair right now. And so to me, it makes sense if we've got an established, well-established user group that wants to utilize these, why don't we at least explore that option? The pickleball group themselves have brought a lot of money to the table to help supply a lot of the furnishings on those courts and nets and so forth in the past. And I believe in talking to Mrs. Eilers that this would be a similar case for these additional courts. I guess at this time, if Mr. Baker, I believe you've got some more that maybe you wanted to present to the board. I think like I said, it's just a really good idea. When I see rows of people waiting for court time and two other courts that could be turned in, we could turn those two courts, I believe, into 6 courts, is what we did on the north courts they now play on. To me, that makes good sense, and that's good utilization of the courts that are there. So,
Mr. Baker, would you like to come up and discuss the matter?
I just want to very briefly point where we started, where we come from. And the first roster that we printed, we had 18 people on it. Nowadays, John Lippman is our communicator, and he has a roster that has 5 pages, relatively small font. So the numbers are growing, and we'll be glad to do anything we can to help promote this additional 2 courts into 6. It's very advantageous.
Thank you very much. Any questions, Mr. Baker? Thank you, sir.
Okay.
I've never played pickleball, but I like the fact that there are people out there that use the activity. And I agree that if we've got courts for tennis that aren't being used, most of the tennis players play in a community park, don't they, Ken? Yes, they do. Yeah. And if they're not being used, we ought to go ahead and avail ourselves of those changing the pickleball courts. One of the things I do want to caution you, Mr. Baker, and your group, is that these remain public facilities. So that if somebody from the public wanted to get on those courts and play pickleball, we have to make some sort of arrangements to let them on, okay? You understand that, right?
Well, we've done in the past is give them combination to lock.
There you go. That's fine.
No problem.
Okay, super.
Oh, so these are locked. These courts are locked.
These folks have made a number of improvements to those pickleball courts.
We've made fences that keep the ball in the playing area, and benches and people to sit on and so forth. So it's considerable improvement. We're just concerned that skateboarders or rollerblades would be in there, sharper little fences made out of PVC pipe.
And to deter vandalism, things like that. They lock them, but then Mr. Seiler's got the combination, I believe, and Mr. Drake.
So it's a combination lock, and then we've got a little sign posted with a phone number, so that if people come up and they see that, they can call the phone number and we'll give them the combination.
Okay, they could
Yeah,
come
yeah.
at 7 o'clock at night.
Correct.
One of you
They
can answer and give the combination.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Does anyone want to take any action on this request?
I move we avail those 2 tennis courts and do whatever we need to do to get them into 6 pickleball courts.
Okay, is there support for that motion?
I'd second that motion.
There's a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Yes, Mr. Tillington.
We do not at this time. We are just very early in talking about this. I've not looked into what that cost is. I know when we did the first set, we manufactured or really built the poles ourselves, so it was at a substantial. Yeah. So I anticipate we'll do the same thing this time around. We've just got to look into that to see what the options are and what we can do again this time, but it'll be very similar to that.
There's a motion, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, good. We've got 6 pickleball courts to make. Okay, we also have a check for $1,428.84 from the William H. Meyer Successor Trust. We'll need a motion to accept those funds.
Motion to accept the funds.
Motion. Is there a second?
And
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those funds are hereby accepted. Jeremy, do you have anything else you want to bring before the commission?
I do not.
Mr. Herman, do you want to discuss anything from your vantage point over there?
No, sir.
Commission members have anything else you want to discuss? Mrs. Knight, do you have anything else you want to bring up?
No, sir, thank you.
Anybody else in the audience want to talk about anything? Okay, the last thing I want to do is, it is Jeremy's birthday. If you all join with me to sing happy birthday to Jeremy. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jeremy. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. I will say 25 feels really, really good. So thanks.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned.